identity and destiny are preaching and supporting primordial affiliation for identity, loyalty, and security. The Senate is concerned also that recently they have been clamoring for ethnically based and regionally supported threat to one united Nigeria in various parts of the country. The Senate also observed that Nigeria's efforts at achieving national integration and unity have remained largely challenged, with the entire social matrix characterized by intercommunity and intra-community, inter-ethnic and intra-ethnic, inter-religious and intra-religious tribes. The Senate reiterates that the amalgamation of the Southern and Northern Protectorates in 1914 was not a mistake, but a design by the Almighty God as a nation of brothers and sisters united in common destiny. The Senate acknowledges that Nigeria, as is currently constituted, is the envy of so many nations across the globe. The Senate commends the spirit of patriotism and nationalism exhibited by Nigerians in support of our journey to nationhood. Accordingly, the Senate resolves to 1. Convey the commitment of the 135 million Nigerians who voted us into office that we live together in unity and harmony as one indivisible, indissoluble sovereign nation under God. 2. Urge all Nigerians to desist from actions and utterances that are capable of jeopardizing the corporate existence of our dear nation. 3. Urge distinguished senators to intensify their representative role by embarking on sensitization campaign in their various constituencies to highlight the importance of harmonious and peaceful coexistence. And 4, urge the federal government to direct the Ministry of Information and National Orientation and other relevant agencies to intensify enlightenment and advocacy of loyalty to the nation. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I believe that leadership in Nigeria is on test. Leadership at all levels, from federal to state and to local governments, we have serious challenges and we must confront those challenges with determination and dedication and commitment and sincerity. I so move, Mr. President.
All right, thank you, distinguished colleagues. This is a very important motion, and we're going to devote most of our time today in debating this issue. So I just want to appeal that if we exercise patience, everybody will have opportunity of speaking. And I also want to appeal to that if we also keep our contribution short, that will also give opportunity for more people to contribute. I just want to make this appeal. Senator Shein Sani.
Mr. President, I stand as Comrade Senator Shein Sani. Mr. President, since 1960, Nigeria has experienced a series of convulsions in its journey to nationhood. It is not unusual in the history of a nation that in phases of its journey, it is faced with this kind of crisis. It is not only Nigeria, but nations throughout the world have their own headaches and heartaches. In China, the problem is with Tibet. In Canada, the problem is with Quebec. In the United Kingdom, the problem is with Northern Ireland. And we are facing our own date with history. Mr. President, as we desire to have a single nation, it is very important that politicians from all sides of the divide and from all geopolitical zones recommit and rededicate themselves to the unity and collective peace and happiness of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Mr. President, politicians from the Southeast, Southwest, and South-South must have the courage, the conviction, and the consistency to insist on one nation. Likewise, politicians from the North must have that courage, that conviction, and that consistency to insist that this is an indissoluble union. Mr. President, I must say this very clearly, that peace is the soul of a nation, and it is on it that any other thing and every other thing is founded. We must have, unreservedly, politicians from the Southeast must unreservedly, unambiguously, and unequivocally condemn the separatist agitations that is coming up there. Politicians from the North must unreservedly, unequivocally, and unambiguously condemn the anarchists and ultra-nationalists that are trying to set this country ablaze. It is only by taking a definite position, not sitting on the fence, and not playing the ostrich, covering our heads with sand, that issues like this could be addressed. As in the words of J.F. Kennedy, in terms of great national crisis, all men of generosity and goodwill, irrespective of party and politics, must come together to address the common problem that confronts us. Mr. President, I will on the last note say, we need what is necessary to further strengthen our unity. Agitations, complaints, and grievances are genuine national issues. We are here to look at them in every possible way and to address them. We must look at the possibility of reconstructing our country, of redesigning our country, and coming up with a new master plan that will address the very important challenges that we are facing in the 21st century. I thank you very much.
Very well, thank you for keeping to time, but I just want to appeal that the chief whip will be the timekeeper. Let's limit ourselves to 3 minutes each. So you can now speak and then you will be the timekeeper going forward for 3 minutes. I will speak next. Yes, then you start keeping time for 3 minutes. You start with yourself.
Mr. President, sir, my distinguished colleagues, I rise from Osun Central. My name is Olushola Adeyeye. With a heavy heart that our nation is at a junction where it is obvious that both the leadership and the citizenry at large in our republic have forgotten nothing because they have learned nothing from our history. The record is there across the globe. There are few countries survive a second civil war. Most nations learn such a lasting lesson from one civil war that they conduct their affairs in such a way that shows that they have made up their mind that never again will they have a civil war. Unfortunately, the cacophony in the space of political discourse in Nigeria in the last few months have shown that we are under serious tension. And I thank your leadership, Mr. President, and I thank you, my dear colleagues, that we have chosen to address this matter straight on. I want to begin by saying I believe that the history of the world has clearly shown that unity pays. Let's look at North America. How many countries? Big continent. Only 3. Canada, USA, and part of Mexico. Let's look at Europe. They used to have lots of countries, but beginning from 1968, they began to weld themselves together into what we now call the EU. They realized that having tiny, disparate, and non-viable economic units cannot be competitive in the world. Let's look at the UK. Tiny country, ruled the whole world, now having their own tension, but nonetheless, they've managed to stay together against all the odds. Yes, they have now left the EU, but there are signs, even in the UK today, that there is regret about that vote. Let's go to South America. There are 14 countries in South America. Only 2 countries in South America are landlocked. Let's come to Africa. Nigeria is the beauty of Africa. Africa has so many tiny, non-viable units that we're always in poverty. Therefore, I believe we must conduct ourselves in such a way that we can stay united. I don't believe that unity is an end unto itself. It ought to be a means to an end, and that means should be the progress of our people, that our people may have life more abundant for every part of Nigeria. That's not the case today. How can we do it? We can do it, one, I believe, by destroying the myth of the greener grass. Every section of Nigeria thinks that life is better elsewhere. They are only the ones in fragment of hell. The truth is, every part of Nigeria is a fragment of hell. We have a duty to turn it into the paradise that we can make it if we work together and we stay united. My time is up. I wish I can take 30 minutes.
All right, thank you. Minority Leader.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. My name is Godswill Akpabio. I represent the good people of Ikot-Ekpene Senatorial District of Akwa Ibom Northwest Senatorial District. And by the grace of my colleagues, the Minority Leader of the Senate. And on that note, I will say, Mr. President, that my last 2 colleagues that spoke support, and are still supporting this motion before these red chambers today, but I rise to second the motion formally, as ably moved by the leader. I want to thank all the senators for seeing the need for us to discuss this issue of national cohesion and unity. There is no doubt that across the entire country today, the forces of division, the forces of disintegration have risen up in pockets all over. I know that these things did not take a day. Some were pent-up angers over the years that were not addressed. Some were the feelings of marginalization. Some were feelings of people who were in government but did not address the issues of federal character. And at the end, in fact, some, as a result of, feeling left out in the affairs of appointments in the nation, where when they look at appointments, they look lopsided. And some agitations have come as a result of feelings of persecution. When governments emerged in Nigeria, right from 1960, if you take a critical look at such government, you realize that whenever a section comes into power, they spend all their energy attempting to press the other section down. And in the process, the whole country stares down. If you are pressing somebody down on the ground, your hands will be down. If you lift somebody up, then your hand will be up. Why Nigeria has been a country of so much motion without movement is because leadership had always spent its energy attempting to press one ethnic group or the other down, or one section or the other. And at the end, Nigeria has not moved forward. Hence, the resurgence of calls for division today. But I want to stand as a nationalist to say that the respect we enjoy all over the globe today is as a result of the unity of this country and as a result of the size of Nigeria. We cannot compromise. We must do everything possible to keep Nigeria one. And I think this is the task that is before these red chambers, and it's the task that is before all Nigerians. Some people never experienced the Nigerian Civil War, and so they cannot understand what they call. There are so many children that were born after the Civil War. But I was a witness. As a young man, I saw where families, even mothers, threw their children into pit toilets so that the people would not know, the soldiers would not know their location. Many countries like Sudan today are not able to put their acts together. No matter their wealth, they cannot access their wealth because of continuous infighting and continuous disruption of economic activities. We can make progress as a nation if only we remain united. We must caution our children from the north to the south and even to the west that the unity of Nigeria cannot be compromised, and that we as a Senate we stand strongly with leaders of this country who are interested in keeping this country together. I will not say more until maybe we get into the prayers, but I believe strongly that, yes, indeed, we have taken the step in the right direction to throw a message that this Senate condemns all forces that are aimed at dividing Nigeria, and that on the unity of this country, we stand. And we must go back to our constituents and advise them so. May God bless Nigeria, and may God keep us united.
Thank you. Senator Parker.
Mr. President, I stand to lend my voice to this important motion. Mr. President, dear colleagues, Senator Parker Emmanuel Bayelsa Central. There is no gainsaying the fact that based on the statement emanating from different sections of this country in the past few weeks, the unity of this country is put to test again. Mr. President, as a country, we cannot say we will not encounter problems in our path to progress. But it's my sincere belief, Mr. President, dear colleagues, that these problems emanating from the polity can be solved within the context of the geographical entity called Nigeria. Mr. President, I agree no less with the acting president who likened the coalition of the different nationalities within the country as a marriage. Mr. President, you will agree with me that if you first marry, the first few years may be turbulence. There are situations where a husband may physically even assault the wife. But as you grow up in the marriage, maturity creeps in. And at a point, even when your wife is sleeping by you, it looks like a sister and a brother sleeping together. And that is what nationalities within the context called Nigeria should be as it is today. That we are brothers and sisters. We should look ourselves in that perspective. Mr. President, we stand to gain a lot from each other. And I agree with my colleagues who spoke earlier that there is need for caution. When a child stands up to beat another child, it is the duty of the parents to caution that please don't do this, don't do that. But if we, the fathers, take side with our children, then it leads to more anarchy. Mr. President, I believe it's a duty, not for only senators here, all leaders within the context called Nigeria, that we should caution the exuberance of our youth in the areas where it will lead to anarchy in this country. The youth are very useful to the development of this country, in contributing to the development of this country. But in areas where we feel that airing this opinion may lead to anarchy, may lead to division of the sections of this country, the leaders of that very area should stand very firm and condemn it in entirety. Mr. President, it's by so doing that this country can move forward. I still believe that, look, if peradventure, not conceding, if this country is pleased, so to say, there is no section that will not have internal conflict. This conflict we are saying today will still emanate from those mini sections of the country that will come up. Take the likes of Sudan and South Sudan. Mr. President, time is up, but I believe staying together in this country will be more useful to any other, all of us, than dividing the country. I so submit, Mr. President.
Very well, thank you. Senator Philip Aduda.
Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, distinguished colleagues. Mr. President, I rise to say that this motion has come at the right time. And I want to say that this motion should have even come earlier and it should have been before now so that we can debate the oneness, the indivisibility of this nation. Mr. President, I think that we all need to take a cue from what is happening in the FCT. The FCT is a place where all Nigerians come and call home, where everybody is residing. And it's the same place where we have had the highest level of marginalization, both in terms of appointments, both in terms of taking over our lands, which were for farming. But we have never issued any threat to anybody. We have accepted our fate and have said that Nigerians should come and live with us. I believe that Nigeria should be home to everybody, like the FCT is to everybody. And so, Mr. President, we have to continue to discuss this. We have to continue to talk as statesmen, and we have to also continue to ensure that this nation live in peace and harmony with each other. Mr. President, I want to also suggest that we go back to our various constituencies and talk to our people that this hate speech will not help anybody, because we're in this marriage called Nigeria. We're in one nation called Nigeria, where we have become an integral part of each other, and we cannot run away from each other, and we will live together till thy kingdom come. So it is high time that we discuss our various issues as they relate to us as a nation, with the view to ensuring that we live harmoniously, we live peacefully, and that whatever agitations that we might have, we will do them peacefully so that we can achieve them within the context of our law. With these few remarks, I want to state that we will continue as the people in the FCT to agitate for our rights, but doing them knowing fully well that there are laid down rules and regulations, the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. With these few notes, with these few remarks, Mr. President, I'd like to thank you, my distinguished colleagues, for giving me this opportunity to speak. I thank you very much.
And I thank you, Senator Binta Garba.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Binta Masi Garba, Adamawa North Senatorial Zone of Adamawa State. I stand to align myself completely and wholeheartedly with all the previous speakers that have spoken about the unity of our great country, Nigeria. The minority leader made mention that some were born before and during the Civil War. I was told about the Civil War by my father, who was conscripted into the Nigerian army, and has told us that there is nothing that is more than unity, peace, tranquility, and living harmoniously irrespective of our diversity. And probably most of us that are in these red chambers have had interracial or interstate marriages here and there, which obviously has shown that irrespective of our geopolitical zone, we are one Nigeria and one must live as Nigerians. Agitations are here and there. And I want to borrow a leaf from what the last speaker has made mention of, the FCT, and what even Senator Shehu Sani made mention, other countries that are still fighting within themselves. The Northeast, the North Central, and the Southwest. Obviously, if you talked about marginalization or even talking about separation of going our different ways, I think the people that ought to now speak about going the different ways are the northeastern part of Nigeria, which obviously we were within the Southern province. Because as of today, in the United Nations, we are still a custodian, and if we want to go our separate way, no person can tell us no. But we believe that because of the plebiscite of 1959, made us to be part of Nigerians, and we've allowed ourselves to be Nigerians, irrespective of our grievances and the marginalization that has been unleashed on the northeastern part of this country. But still, sir, like I said, and I will continue to say, since the invent of democracy in 1999 till date, the northeastern part of this country has not gotten up to 3%. The highest it has gotten was 3% of the infrastructural development in the budgetary allocation. But nevertheless, sir, we have accepted to be Nigerians, irrespective of our diversity. Hate words cannot go take us anywhere. Social media is not even helping matters. We've heard of stories here and there. But the most important thing, we should ask ourselves a question. Are we truly patriotic as Nigerians? Do we want to be Nigerians first before an individual or collective geopolitical zone? If indeed we are Nigerians, then we must come to the table and allow every segment of this country a sense of belonging so that these agitations will be kept aside. But we are all here. When it is good, we are Nigerians. When it is not good, then we talk about regional differences. But please and please, for the sake of posterity, let us know that some people have paid for the unity of this country. They have sacrificed innocent blood for us to be where we are today. May we be part of those people that will uphold the unity of this country so that our children yet unborn will now, continue the good work where we have stopped. Thank you very much.
Very well, thank you, Senator Baribe.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Naya Baribe, and I represent Abia South. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, the Igbo have a saying. I will say it in Igbo and then I will interpret it. Na ihe mere eji enwe oke mmadụ wụ ụmụntakịrị ama gata ada kpọọ ebe. What it says here is this, that the reason that you have elders is so that children don't go and eat beetle and call it weevil. Because it is only the elder that we tell the child, this one is not edible, it's a beetle. This one is a weevil, because they all look alike. The reason why we are here as senators is that we are elders of this country, and we should tell our children which one is a beetle and which one is a weevil. That is a word for the wise. Thank you very much.
Senator Kwankwaso.
Mr. President, my name is Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, representing Kano Central. Mr. President, I would like to start by thanking the majority leader for moving this important motion, especially at this critical time of our history. Mr. Chairman, this time is time to unite, not to fight in this country. Mr. President, this is the time for all Nigerians to come together as a family and work for the unity, for the progress and development of our dear nation. Let me, at this point, take the opportunity to thank the federal government, especially yesterday that I was informed that the federal government invited some leaders from northern Nigeria And today, I was also told that some leaders from the southeast would be invited. Mr. Chairman, my advice is that in the north, we have 3 geopolitical zones, so also the south. I think in inviting, there is need also to be cautious so that it doesn't look like the issue is between northern Nigeria and southeast. The issues at stake, Mr. President, is across the country, and therefore it must be seen to be handled in such a way that it doesn't trigger any serious issue again. Mr. President, during the political dispensation like we have now, unless if we have weak political institutions, especially our parties, some of these issues shouldn't come up at all. But what we have today is that the ruling party, the APC, for whatever reason, was made to be very weak. And the opposition party, the PDP, in my opinion, is in the shambles. And this is the time for us to come together and support these parties, the party in government and even in the opposition. Without strong parties, we are likely to see all these differences, religious, south, north, regions, and so on and so forth. And this is the time for us to come together and work as a family and work with our parties, our governors, our federal government, our senators, members of the House of Reps. All of us should put our hands together to support our parties, to make them strong, so that all these issues can be taken at the lower level. Let me also take the opportunity, Mr. President, to join my colleagues here to condemn all these forces that are fighting to divide us. And I want to appeal to us, the senators and all those leaders across the country, that we must not be seen to be supporting these forces that are working to divide this country, either by words, either by body language, or by whatever means, because doing that will amount to encouraging them, because we know how it started. And Mr. President, this is the time, as has been mentioned, to call a spade a spade. And we have to support the forces that are working to unite us, not to divide us. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Very well, thank you. Senator Tejiosho.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I am Olanrewaju Tejiosho, representing Ogun Central, Ogun State. I rise to support this motion, and from the implication of the motion, all the senators in this hallowed chamber support the motion. So I can rightly say that we all want one Nigeria. However, we need to intensify our efforts in getting this message of one Nigeria to all Nigerians. We need to redefine the most effective way of getting the message across to Nigerians. Our people in our constituencies, they believe more in our religious leaders than even we politicians. We believe we need to intensify the efforts to encourage our religious leaders, both Christians and Muslims, to focus more on the message of one Nigeria in their messages. At the moment, I would say there is a deafening silence from religious leaders in terms of the importance of the message at this time. We need the general overseers of our churches, the imams of our mosques, to come out in their respective areas to emphasize the importance of having one Nigeria. I rightly believe the Igbos, the Southeasterners, they are very good businessmen and women. They have investments all over the country. In this Abuja, I can say they dominate the hotel industries. For example, I believe they will not want their investments in Abuja to be relocated somewhere else or for someone else to take them over. So I rightly believe that the Nigerians everywhere, they want one Nigeria. The federal government has been calling the leaders from the north and from the south. I want to also add that they must call the religious leaders because they are the ones that have access to more people in Nigeria. They must pass this message to all Nigerians, both the educated and uneducated, on the importance of living together as one and let this Nigeria that we all love keep on growing and not to be divided. I thank you, Mr. President.
Very well, thank you, Senator Gamade.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Barnabas Gamade. I represent Benue Northeast Senatorial District. Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues, I rise to also support this important motion being debated today in the Senate. Let me first of all commend the Senate of the Federal Republic of Nigeria and its leadership for taking this decisive step to do what is rightly our responsibility. Speaking for this country should be the job of those who are elected by the various constituencies to do so. We should be in the driving seat to chart the course of nation building. We should not be here defending ourselves and all the problems that Nigeria is experiencing, but we should be charting the course for where this country goes. Nigeria, right from inception, was made by God's own wisdom in putting major ethnic nationalities as blocks and bringing some smaller nationalities as mortar between those blocks. And while we try to cement this country together in harmony and unity, we find that it is always the big blocks that are shaking. Is it because we don't put enough mortar between these blocks, or what is actually happening? In the wisdom of our forefathers, they have created so many things to bring about unity. As has been mentioned in the motion, National Youth Service, unity colleges, federal character, all of these things have not been able to solve this problem. And we see continue to get agitation, mainly from the big blocks. Federal character has pronounced so many things that must be spread in the nation, at least one each from every state. And some nationalities have about 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 states. That means that they get a very fair share of whatever is being distributed. What more of the smaller groups that in some instances they share this national cake and they don't even get it because they are too small to form a bloc. I'm pleading with Nigeria, and I'm pleading with Nigerians, that the leaders of our major blocs in this nation must ensure that they deal with the issues of these bodies of agitation, MASOB, IPOD, OPC, Arewa Youth. All of these bodies, we have to carefully manage them and ensure that we leaders speak out against what they are saying, speak out against what they stand for, but speak more for the unity of this nation. And I believe that the Senate has taken its rightful position today to chart the course on this matter of national unity, and we must support it to its logical conclusion. I thank you for this opportunity.
Very well, thank you. Senator Olajumi. I have your names, and the names are written in the order you raise your hands. So just exercise patience.
Hey, Mike, thank you very much, Mr. President. My name is Biodun Olujimi. I represent Ekiti South Senatorial District of Ekiti State. Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, for giving me the opportunity to add my voice to the discourse. Mr. President, I'll start with just two quotes. One of them, to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. And of course, the second one comes from the stanza, the first stanza of our former national anthem. It says, though tribe and tongue may differ, in brotherhood we stand. Nigerians all are proud to serve our sovereign motherland. I know that many people don't appreciate these two quotes now, but they go way back. One during the war, when we were young, and we were harboring our neighbors who were either Igbos or Hausas. And that was the time when the unity of Nigeria was most important. And the slogan then was, to keep Nigeria one is a task that must be done. And it was done then. Also, with our national anthem, it was something that bound us together as a people. And we all grew up knowing everything across all divides. In fact, I was amazed that we're taking this today because June 12th is also a situation, a time where we had an election that broke all the barriers. It broke the barrier of race. It broke the barrier of religion. And Nigerians came together and voted, and they were with one voice. Also, a situation here in the Senate, where when the issues of unity and development that concerns Nigeria comes to the fore, we all jettison everything racial, everything ethnic, and we come to the table and work for Nigeria. I believe that is what Nigeria is about. I believe the God that put us together in his wisdom knew that we needed to work together. Mr. President, we've worked hard together, and we've not been able to maximize the opportunities that present themselves. But what will we do if we break into fragments? I believe that our leaders must stand up to be counted, and they must speak up in this situation and at times like this. And like Senator Abaribe said, must teach the youths how to put this country, this fragile country, together. I believe the time has come for us as leaders in this Nigeria to work together with government to see that we keep this unity indivisible. And I believe it will be done. To keep Nigeria one, Mr. President, is a task that must be done. Thank you very much.
Very well, thank you. Senator James Manager.
Thank you, Mr. President, my respected colleagues. James Ebiowo Manager is my name, C-O-N, Delta South. From the south of Nigeria, Mr. President, my respected colleagues, this is an important motion, and of course, almost everybody, apart from the presiding officer, number one, including the presiding officer, is a co-sponsor of this motion. That, of course, makes this particular motion to be very unique. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, Nigeria, I will be very brief, Nigeria has come a long way, amalgamated by the British in 1914. And of course, it was God that brought all of us together in one place. The amalgamation was done by the British, but we are all where we are. And we are all members together. It was not a human being that amalgamated these boundaries that we have together in one place. Otherwise, perhaps the Igbos would have been in Canada, or the Hausa Fulani people would have been in Japan. But God brought all of us together in one location. The Ijo man is also here. Together, we are over there occupying the riverine areas of Nigeria on behalf of all of you, very wealthy people. Mr. President, my respected colleagues, perhaps what people don't know is this. The time for people to now get split into different tiny states is gone. It was part of the world history. But now that time is gone. Instead, today, countries are expanding. Countries are praying to expand. Look at China, for example. They have the highest population in the world. But China, you know the history of China and even Hong Kong. The recent history of Hong Kong, how China aggressively decided that they must take over Hong Kong from the British rule. And of course, you know the history between China and Taiwan, the one China policy. In spite of that population, huge population, they are number 1 in the world in terms of population. They are number 4 in the world in terms of geographical area. Nigeria is just number 7 in the world population. Number 7, we are number 7. And when you talk about geographical area, we are number 32. So why are we talking about splitting? Somebody saying that I want to be on my own. Somebody saying you must go on your own. Please take it easy. Our youth, please take it easy. Our elders, please take it easy. I think we are better together. Thank you for the opportunity.
Very well, thank you. Senator Mogage.
Thank you, Mr. President. Ovie Omo Agege Delta Central Senatorial District. Mr. President, let me begin by thanking the majority leader for this motion. Mr. President, I wholeheartedly support this motion. I support this motion, Mr. President, because I believe in one Nigeria. Mr. President, I believe in a united Nigeria. But Mr. President, I also believe in a Nigeria that is fair to everyone, fair to all of the geopolitical zones. Mr. President, while I support this motion wholeheartedly, I do not want us to lose sight of why we have these challenges today. At some point, Mr. President, the challenges that has given rise to this agitation from the Southeast, from the Arewa youth, and indeed, even from the South-South. There is agitation from the South-South as well. Mr. President, the reason for those agitations at some point must be looked into. A lot of my colleagues here have drawn our attention to what occurred during the war. At least unlike Senator Binta, who was told about the war, some of us who actually saw the war. And like others have said, especially Senator Sari and Senator Dey, no nation has ever survived 2 civil wars. Mr. President, I want to counsel that, I don't want us to be like the restored Bourbons of France, the Bourbon monarchy of France. I don't want us to be like them, who learned nothing and forgot nothing. So, Mr. President, I want to wholeheartedly support this motion. Like my other colleagues, I want to call for a calm reflection from everyone, for everyone to down tools and allow those who know the difference between weevil and beetle, as we've been told, to sit down and counsel us on how some of these problems will be addressed. I thank you, Mr. President.
Very well, thank you. Senator Magnozabe.
Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, this is a very important motion, and it's a very trying time for our country. And it is clear that our resolve is firm, and our commitment is also firm. We have a union, Mr. President, and that union is not perfect. We can make it better. There is no country on earth that becomes a great nation merely by circumstance or by chance. Great nations are built by the suffering sacrifice of its people and its citizens. The question that we must ask ourselves is, how hard are we trying to build Nigeria into a great nation? In everything we do, our diversity is our greatest challenge, but it is also our greatest strength. What are we doing as a people to harness that diversity into our strength, a core strength, instead of becoming a challenge that overtakes the entire nation? Mr. President, I would also want to point out that those who assume that if they have their own little block of Nigeria, that they will be happy in that tiny enclave, should look at the history of other countries that have broken apart. There was no peace in Sudan. It divided into Southern Sudan and Sudan. Today, there is no peace in Sudan. There is no peace in Southern Sudan. There was no peace in Ethiopia. They now have Eritrea. Today, there is still no peace in Eritrea. The problem with Nigeria is not the rivers, it's not our mountains, it is the people of Nigeria. What are we doing to make sure that as a people we can come together and build a strong, virile, prosperous, just and fair nation that provides for all Nigerians? The problem today in Nigeria, Mr. President, is that if you have a problem and you are talking quietly and peacefully, nobody listens to you unless you begin to blow up things and make trouble. That is why you see every section of this country, people are trying to show their capacity to self-destruct, as if that in any way helps in improving their lot. We must, as a country, begin to listen to people when they are not creating problems. That is part of what we are not doing. I am from Rivers State, I'm from Ogoni. My own people, we have been agitating for years, but our agitation has always been peaceful. It is time that we give the peaceful agitators some attention so that everybody does not have to create problems before we can discuss their issues in this country. I want to thank all those that have supported this motion, but to say that more important than what we say here in the Senate is what we do in our different constituencies and states, is what we do to give all Nigerians a sense of belonging. I think that that is a foundation on which a stronger, more prosperous, and more successful union of all Nigerians will be built. I condemn in very, very clear terms any action by any group or section of our country that tends to limit the rights of other Nigerians, whether in that their own section of the country or in any other section of the country. No Nigerian, whether from the southeast or from the north or from the west or from the south-south, should be allowed to do anything that threatens the rights of other Nigerians to live peacefully in every part of this country. That is where we should stand as a nation, and that is where I stand as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.
Very well. Senator Tinubu.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Oluremi Tinubu, representing Lagos Central Senatorial District. I rise to lend my humble voice to my other colleagues who have spoken eloquently this morning. When we look at the coat of arms of Nigeria, our motto is unity, faith, peace, and progress. But I'd like to quote from the Holy Bible in Psalm 123 that said how good and how pleasant it is for brethren to dwell in unity. And the importance of that little prayer says, that is the place where God commands his blessing. And not only just blessing, everlasting blessing. It is very, very crucial for us as Nigerians to live in peace and harmony. And I believe that our fathers and the patriarchs and matriarchs of our great nation has really looked into that before they came up with our motto for our coat of arms. But I will add only a personal experience that I had just only recently. I was traveling from a flight from London to Lagos, and I looked around in the cabin. I saw a lot of foreigners around me, and that tells me that something is happening in Nigeria, but only Nigerians cannot see it. And we discovered that even in the years past, when we were taken away on slavery, this is how foreigners came in form of missionaries. We benefited a lot, that's not the issue. But you see, what people see in us, we as Nigerians don't even see the opportunities that are abound in this great nation. I'm really proud to be a Nigerian. And as I stand here, I don't belong to just one tribe. The interesting thing of me being in Nigeria is my mother is Shekiri, my father is Yoruba, my mother's first husband happened to be a Rivers man. So I have my mother's first child is from Rivers. She's Alamina, and I've never said that. We have wives from Igbo, we have Hausa wives, and that tells you that that is the wonder of being a Nigerian. And that is what I share as being in Nigeria. I don't see myself as a Yoruba girl. I see myself more as a Nigerian. I speak Shekiri language, and that is the beauty of us being a Nigerian. And I believe that what we are saying about unity of Nigeria, it can never be compromised. So I appeal that the patriotism that we are supposed to show as Nigerians should be modeled not only by us, and also teach it around our communities. And I will end with a quote from JFK that said, don't ask what your American can do for you. You should ask what you can do for America. But I will close by saying that ask what you can do for Nigeria, not what Nigeria can do for you. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Ben Bruce.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. Distinguished colleagues, my name is Ben Murray Bruce, representing Bayelsa East. Time is of the essence. I want to thank you all for bringing this very, very important debate on the floor of the National Assembly. But I take a different perspective to what has happened here. You have to go back in history to understand why there was a civil war in the first place, and 50 years later, why the same people are agitating for independence. In '66, we had the first coup, where it was alleged that the Igbos wiped out northern leaders in the military. Second coup, Gawan took over, and there was a lot of bloodshed, killing the Igbos. Igbos were killed in the north. They moved back to eastern Nigeria. Ojukwu became head of state, declared a nation called Biafra. The war started. We fought for 3 years. The war was over. And southeastern Nigeria, and eastern Nigeria as it was called, was integrated into Nigeria. That is the background. Now, when the war was over, I asked the Vice President of Nigeria a fundamental question. There are two questions asked. One, why did you erase the bite of Biafra from the map of Nigeria? And he said that at the Supreme Military Council meeting, they felt Biafra would rise again. And so the federal government at the time did everything possible not to talk about the war in Nigeria. So from 1970 to the present, a generation of Nigerians who were born did not know we had a civil war. And I know a lot of young people who do not know Nigeria fought a war. This policy of being an ostrich and not addressing issues is counterproductive. If you lived in America, you know you had the Vietnam War, which happened at the same time as the Nigerian Civil War. You had the Korean War, you had the First World War, you had the Second World War. You have all kinds of wars. And they talk about it all the time. If you watch the Discovery Channel, you can see all the wars in the world. And the reason they televise these wars is so that you can learn from the mistakes of others so that you do not become a fool and make the same mistakes and fight again. And so here we are 50 years later talking about something that could have been avoided if the federal government at the time understood the value of history. So one, we erased the Civil War from our consciousness. So a generation of people do not know we fought the war or why we fought the war. They say the Igbos were marginalized, right? They fought the war, they lost. Today, they are the most industrious people in the country today. They are the richest Nigerians in the country today. One of the most educated people in Nigeria today. Yet, they feel marginalized. If you compare the Igbo man to the other sections of the society, you would say the Igbos are very privileged because of what they have. Yet, a generation of Igbos say they are marginalized and they want to secede and they want a nation. Well, yes, a young generation of people who have never seen bloodshed, war, destruction, people being killed, amputated, families being divided, sure, they can think like that. But what have we done as a nation to educate them about the destruction of war? Absolutely nothing. We do not teach this in our history books. We do not tell our children what war is all about. It's easy to talk about war. How many people have carried a gun, an AK-47, a machine gun, a machete? How many people have carried a gun? How many people have used a gun? How many people have fired a shot? How many people? Those who talk about war, those who talk about bloodshed, those who talk about confusion, have never carried a gun. So how do they know how people die? Have they seen blood? And yet here we are debating a subject that we as a nation should understand. The educational system does not teach it, and our people do not understand it, and the federal government of Nigeria do not recognize it. And so my position is different. If the federal government do not recognize a fundamental problem in our educational system, a fundamental problem on how television is viewed across the country, then we have a fundamental problem. And we must address the problem at the source. What is the problem? We are the problem. It could be Biafra today, it could be South-South tomorrow, it could be North-East the other day. It doesn't matter. The problem is we are not addressing the problem that unites or divides us. And this must be addressed. Our educational system is one of the worst I've ever seen in anywhere in the world. It is terrible. Our policy on information makes no sense whatsoever. And here we are talking about an impending crisis. A lot of people forget. I don't know. I'll be quick. How many people remember December 31st, 1983, when there was a military coup? A lot of people forget. I was in the office of Punch newspaper, Oluwabodere. I did not know he was dying of cancer. But there he said to me, Nigeria must change, and he would do whatever it took to bring down the Shagari administration. He did an editorial 3-4 days before the military coup. Front page, back page, inside front page. Within 3 days, the military struck and democracy ended. But the people of this country who do not pay attention to history, who do not read, who do not watch television, and to the government who pretend to be deaf and dumb.
Yeah, Mike.
Pay attention. The government should pay attention to the least of us. They should pay attention to history. There is a way out, but to pretend, and when you erase Bite of Biafra from the map, nobody has a right to erase the name Bite of Biafra from the map. If it's Bite of Biafra, put it back on the map. You have no right to take Bite of Biafra off the map, put it back on the map, and let's fix our problem. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you. Sir Nala.
Thank you very much, Mr. President, and my distinguished colleagues. First, I think it's important to address this issue from the leadership standpoint. As far as I'm concerned, based on my little knowledge of what our former leaders did, they did a very commendable work to ensure the sustenance of a united, prosperous Nigeria. And unfortunately, at one stage or the other of our political life, we have clinged to one cleavage or the other to be able to have access to governance and without minding the consequences. First, Mr. President and my distinguished colleagues,
Has anybody cared to ask a question that at this stage of our political development, a constituted court in this country will grant bail to a citizen of this country who is calling for secession and make it a condition precedent that he must produce a serving senator? Do they know the implication of those conditions? Now, when we begin to look at what exactly has gone wrong, we will see that the first issue has been our inability to determine who are Nigerians, who can we validly call Nigerians. In the motion, the Senate leader has said over 135 million Nigerians voted us into this chamber. What percentage of these Nigerians have come up to ask for secession? Very, very insignificant. So when we begin to give attention to what ordinarily should not have been given the desired attention, then we begin to create problems that we are capable of solving by our approach as leaders. So in my opinion, as far as I'm concerned, issues of this nature are adequately covered by the law, and the willingness of government and those of us in power to address them using the instrumentality of the law is very, very important. But most importantly, and in conclusion, I would like to commend the Senate for finding it worthy to discuss this matter at this stage of our political history. I'm therefore wholeheartedly supporting this motion. But I will take the lead, and that lead is as a leader in this Senate, as a leader coming from the North, to say that I unequivocally condemn the declaration by the Northern youth as far as it relates to what generated this problem to where we are. And that is the lead that I think I do. Thank you very much.
Senator Samegu.
Samegu.
Long live Biafra.
A microphone.
Thank you, Mr. President. I am Senator Sam Egu, representing Ebonyi North Senatorial District. I want to support this motion because of its importance. I also want to support and acknowledge the move of Mr. Vice President or Acting President in trying to call for reconciliation. What is happening, as a matter of fact, is very unfortunate. There is no doubt that there have been a lot of injustice in this country. There's no doubt that tension has been high. And there's no doubt that a lot of people are not happy. But I think it is important that our leaders, especially political leaders, especially the elders, be very careful in handling the very critical situations like this. Agitations have been there forever. Like my colleague said, from Ogoni, from Masop, and later IPOB. There's also that from the northeast. The Boko Haram came, in fact, the major issue of Boko Haram is that they wanted an Islamic state. And I'm sure majority of Northeasterners don't even support it because they enjoy the secular nature of this country. In the southeast, I want to put on record that the agitation of the youths, of the younger ones, does not enjoy the support of majority of us. Because nobody will be talking about living in Nigeria now. Igbos have investments all over this country, and they know the implication of leaving those investments. Are they going to, if they have a state of Biafra, when they want to go to Kaduna, they now start looking for visa? It's not possible. It's not possible. I mean, it's not practicable. And that is why majority of the Igbos are not in support of this agitation. But the issue is that the quest for restructuring appears to enjoy majority support. But then that research must be guided researching. I want to add that. Guided. So that we don't, in the process of researching, divide ourselves more. I want to support, Mr. President, that efforts should be made to caution those who are making sensitive statements or hate statements. And efforts should be made by government to now know, because there's a way they handle issue, it gives it a wrong impression, wrong interpretation. The long detention of Kanu actually made people to have sympathy for him, not because of his agitation, but because they felt he has been, when court asked him to be given bail and he refused. So that actually gave people support for him, not because of the agitation. And until we separate these issues, people should know actually the issue of points. So, Mr. President, I feel that we should rise up, like we are doing now, to condemn, especially statements from elders of this country, who tend to make statements that will divide us than bringing us together. Nigeria belongs to all of us, and none of us is going to leave Nigeria, because Nigeria is a country created for God, for all of us. Thank you very much.
Senator Francis.
Mr. Chairman, thank you very much. My name is Francis Ali Mikena, representing the good people of Edo North. Mr. President, I can say that God is a Nigerian. Why do I say so? In 1940, in spite of our differences, Nigeria was amalgamated into one country. In 1960, our forefathers, in spite of all the differences, whether to have independence or no independence, they felt it is right for us to have a unity, that is a strength in unity. And Nigeria gained our independence. Within 1960 to 1966, when there was some wrangling within our country then as it is now, the consciousness of the military was provoked, and the military, in order to provide to make Nigeria one, came into sin, and this one led to a bitter war. And this war was fought, and by the grace of God, because God was still for Nigeria, the war ended, no victor, no vanquish. Now, since then, Nigeria has been together. Most of those who are agitating, talking, and most of them did not even witness the war. I would say that it is better for us to caution those who want to call themselves emperor and want to see what, most of them, they don't have anything, don't want to call themselves emperor, and how to whip up the sentiment. This is not the time to whip up the consciousness of the military, because it will not be good for everybody. This country belongs to all of us. As I would say, as those people in the Christian world will say, that those who want to defend division to this country, Holy Ghost will take control. God bless Nigeria.
State of Wacha.
Thank you, Mr. President. My name is Emmanuel Boacha. I represent Taraba South. Mr. President, at the risk of repeating what had been said, let me appreciate the opinion behind this debate. It's a great service we are doing to Nigeria as a country. And I want to say, even though the debate is, I wouldn't say it's coming late, but I think it's better to say it's late than never at all. We have been quiet for so long without saying anything about what is happening in Nigeria. I want to associate myself with the opinion of one of the speakers who said, in this country, a lot of people believe the best way to be heard is to issue threats. That is why I believe most of the issues raised in the ongoing rebellious utterances are not from the heart of such people. Most of these people want to be heard. But beneath the facet of these dangerous utterances, there are some underlying issues that need to be addressed. And as a statement, we cannot also keep quiet. I agree that there are issues, grievances people have to share as it affects the project Nigeria. But I want also to caution that no section of this country can go it alone. No section of this country. Let me also hasten to say, Mr. President, that I look at the ongoing agitation as a straight shoot between the Southeast and the Northwest. This is my opinion. And that is why I said it's not a matter that truly may shake the foundation of Nigeria. It is expressing anger. If a particular region feels shortchanged, the best way to do it, they think, is let me come out with a threat. But where I said there are underlying issues that we should speak about as statement is where if something happens, for instance, if somebody is being arrested so that they can correct certain misnomer or attitude that is supposed to be treated as a treasonable act, I think if another person commits such act, the state must act so as to show that the state is superintending over everybody. This is my worry about the entire development. If we keep quiet and don't speak, and a statement too will be held responsible. But I want to agree with all the speakers before me that we cannot afford to break as a nation. That we are stronger together as a nation, whether we like it or not. This is my take on this matter. And I pray that let us take this very, very seriously and avoid grandstanding. Because most of us, while we speak, what we say is different from what is in our heart. So I think we must speak a statement, and that this Senate owe it a duty to take a position and tell Nigerians that we are against any act that will bring Nigeria to its knees. God brought us together for a purpose, and we must work together for the strength of this country. I so submit. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Senator Chukwutazi.
Thank you, Mr. President, for inviting me to speak. I am Senator Chukwutazi. I represent the good people of Enugu North and Central District of Enugu State. Mr. President, I must thank the leadership of the 8th Senate for yet again bringing on board a very important burning national issue and putting it in the front burner of national discourse and giving us this opportunity to speak our minds, to speak from the heart of what concerns this country and proffer solutions thereon. Mr. President, I know most of us, even though if we are not students of literature, have read the book published by Chinua Achebe, The Trouble with Nigeria. Mr. President, Chinua Achebe in that book placed squarely the problem of this country to leadership of this country. And I ask our colleagues each time to take that book. It's a book that you can read within an hour or 30 minutes. 1 hour, 30 minutes, you read it. But you will refresh your memory about the challenge that is facing all of us here today as leaders. You see, the man dies in the man who keeps quiet in the face of tyranny. I want to say that leadership has this problem we are talking about here today. And until we rise up to the challenge of this issue, we are not going to make any headway. And that is, Mr. President, The issue of nationhood is a process, is a journey, is a process. It's not a destination. Our founding fathers have done their bit. But what are we doing today to make the difference? Mr. President, I'm standing on the ground of opinion, groundswell of opinion, to say that this country have to take us from where we are to the next. And in doing that, Mr. President, this country is always talking about a section that is the turn of this country, this session, to produce a president. It is the turn of this country to produce a vice president. Without addressing the issue is that leadership must be for people who are competent, people who know what to do with the leadership. It's not there about a section. And that is where our young ones are clamoring. They have ideas and they feel they have no opportunities. We must, as if we want to make a country out of this, make a nation out of Nigeria, we must start looking at competence. If America have to swallow their pride and allow a son of an African immigrant to be their president, I wonder why Nigeria should still be talking about North-South in leadership. We should, if we find an German who is very qualified, who can take us out of the wood, let us give that person to this thing. If you have somebody from Kano who can do it and can do it well, let us give it to that person. Let's go give the young ones opportunity. Let the people, the most people who are qualified, take the leadership, not section, not religion, not politics. That is the only way people can feel free to get things done in this country. And I feel that if we start doing that, that people will start feeling that they are part of it. But if you exclude them, the tendency that agitation will be here and there. I know that the Igbos believe in this country so much. If they don't believe in this country so much, they will not be everywhere investing the way they are investing. There is no part of the country that believes in this country except the Igbo people. We, yes, because we're everywhere we do our things. And also that...
Your microphone.
Sorry, sir, I'm rounding up. In 1956, Atine was the mayor in Enugu. Atine is another. He was a mayor of Enugu. I know in those good old days, Zeke was...
Your microphone.
Finally, Mr. President, that opportunities have to come back again. And that is the only way we can, that's the only way we can forge ahead and become a nation.
All right, thank you. Setaliero.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. I remain Muhammad Adam Aleru, representing Kebbi Central. Mr. President, let me start by first of all commending the leadership and indeed the entire Senate for bringing this motion and also supporting it. I'm very pleased with the comments made by various colleagues. Mr. President, we've come a long way from 1914 to 2017, almost 104 years. We have to live together. And the corporate existence of this country cannot be negotiated. Nigeria must remain one indivisible and indissoluble entity. I agree that there are problems, there are challenges, and those challenges should be addressed. And that's why in 2014, the then president, President Goodluck Jonathan, decided to invoke what we call national conference. And it was a conference where all the ethnic nationalities, all the states of the federation, all the geopolitical zones of this country were properly represented. And all the issues that are affecting the unity and stability of this country were thoroughly discussed under the leadership of Justice Idris Kutigi, co-chaired by Professor Bolaji Akin. And a lot of recommendations were made in order to address these challenges. Mr. President, I will recommend that the Senate should ask for those recommendations to be tabled before the National Assembly. Because in those recommendations, all the agitations from the southeast, from the south-south, from the northwest, from all the zones were addressed. And I don't know why we are not asking for those recommendations to be brought to us. They should be implemented where necessary. And sadly, Mr. President, yes, the executive is doing its very best by calling leaders from the north, leaders from the southeast. Nothing stopped the National Assembly from inviting these leaders and also sitting to discuss with them. After all, we have three arms of government: legislature, executive, and judiciary. We don't expect the judiciary to do anything. But the issue of nation building is a responsibility for all the arms of government. We should address this issue by calling them to sit with us and discuss with us. It will make a lot of difference, Mr. President, if they see you, me, Senator Abiribe, Senator Gemade, Adamu Abdullahi, sitting together discussing the problems. It is one thing to talk glowingly in the chambers, but it's another thing different to do outside. What we say in the chambers, honestly speaking, we don't say it outside. When we go, we tend to support whatever these ethnic jingoists are doing. So I support the idea of having a conference with them. That is the best way to address the challenges of this nation. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Dada.
Thank you, Mr. President. Dear colleagues, my name is Senator Bana Dada, representing people of Ogun West. I have to lend my voice to this debate. Our nation, Nigeria, is at a crossroad. This is the most desperate of our nation, but it's also the finest hour for men and women of integrity to stand up and be counted, to defend what is decent and right. Let our leader address the issue on ground. We in the Southwest, we are out of government for 38 years. But if you look at our ground value of our region, we are better off in our education systems. It's more peaceful environment for investment. People are coming in there. So it shows that some quality in some areas. We in the Southwest, what we're talking about is true federalism. In the South-South, the reaction of the South-South is fluctuating. In the Southeast, their frustration is the mark of oppression for exit for Nigeria. But in the North, what they want to maintain the status quo to continue. That volcano will erupt. We need to accept that nation needs to be restructured. We need to lay a foundation for a new society where our people, my children, want to grow up in a nation where it can develop its potential to fullest without any artificial control, qualifier characters, quota system. It should not be part of the game. Let them develop their potentials. These are the issues we are talking about. Every part of the country knew that this country's structure is not perfect. We need to address the issue of restructuring to create nations. Nigeria is a nation state. Every small nation in Nigeria have ethnic allegiances. Very strong.
Chief, we're monitoring the time. Okay.
You have ethnic allegiances. These allegiances reinforce. The difference between tribalism, racism, is that one has color at point of departure, but they are most exploitative ideologies. They exploit people by it. So I feel strongly that this nation has to work together as one nation, because if you look at the American history, even from one of the least American head of state, Abraham Lincoln, he said, after Civil War, that our nation, United States of America, that from the ashes of the recent war, we can be a new nation, a nation where mass social acceptance will not be based on the tribe it comes from. Society, our society, where you can lay a foundation for a new society, a society that governs by the rule of law, society that's driven by fear of God, equity, justice. These are what we are looking for. I want to live in Nigeria, a nation where I'm proud of today. In the next 20 years, be stronger. Our forefathers, our founding fathers, their dreams, aspirations, we can continue. That is the way forward. But we must address the critical issues. The system is defective. Our nation is sick. May God heal our nation. Thank you.
Senator Kerry.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues. My name is Abubakar Kyari, Senator representing the ravaged Borno North. Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I was just wondering, and I think somebody mentioned it earlier, that better late than never. Why did it have to take a small press conference to wake us up, while this thing has been going on for quite a while? I mentioned that I represent the ravaged Borno North. Most of us here have not seen the damage and destruction that has occurred since 2009, especially in Borno State, let alone those that are agitating for secession, or even agitating or calling for violence or even war, because they have never experienced or have seen the damage of war. Today, we have over 2 million displaced persons. Orphans alone number above 60,000. Widows above 40,000. Deaths over 100,000. Today, some people have not seen their wards, their children for the past 6 years, and they don't know where they are. Some may be dead, some may be alive, but scattered all over the state. Distinguished colleagues, what is before us is very serious. We may sit down here and talk about it, but if we do not get down to the root of the issue, we will never get out of it. Boko Haram started from wearing helmet, just helmet, and like joke, it exploded, and this is what we have at our hands now. I was wondering, before my colleagues were talking, and I was looking on the other side, I was trying to see some key people to stand up and talk, but they have not. And I hope before the end of this session, they will make maybe some statements, because that will now soothe and also calm the suspicion that exists between the divide. And I'm sure I don't have to be very specific on what I'm talking about. Most of us know what I'm talking about. So please, we need to go beyond just rising up and playing to the gallery. There are serious issues, and if we don't go back to our various constituencies and warn our people the dangers of war and the ravages of war, I think we're just wasting some time and just talking to the gallery. Thank you very much, man.
Senator Mao.
Mr. President, distinguished senators, my name is Senator Mao Arukwe Ohuabunwa, representing Abia North. I want to commend the leader for this all-important motion and to call our members to this motion. The motion specifically says the need for national unity and peaceful coexistence in Nigeria. That is the motion. And there's a saying that says, united we stand, divided we fall. I stand here boldly and proudly to say that I'm a symbol of unity because I'm an Igbo man from the southeastern part of this country, born bred in Rivers State, South-South. My wife is from Rivers State, South-South. I had my adulthood, my business life in the northeastern part of this country. That is Adamawa State. Started business in Lagos, Southwest. So you can see that I've covered all the geopolitical zones of this country. And I want to say that as a senator of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, we swore to uphold the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, and the Constitution we swore to uphold mandates us that Nigeria is nothing but we are to live in unity and harmony as one indivisible, indissoluble sovereign nation dedicated to Africa, inter-African solidarity, and world peace. What am I saying, sir, is that unity must be hinged up on peace, and peace must be hinged on fairness, equity, and justice. Today, we are celebrating as a Senate because we've been given justice, because we know that if the Senate President was not giving justice today, we would have been saying that it was an injustice. But today is justice. So what I'm saying is that there are so many agitations here and there. Some might be perceived, some might be real. But I believe that it's time, and it behoves on us as leaders and senators to look at what are these injustices and look at ways to correct them. Because if you don't, these agitations will continue. As far as unity of Nigeria is concerned, it's not negotiable. Nobody's negotiating it, especially as senators. But we want to look at these areas of injustices and correct them, because we must live in equity, fairness. And that I'm saying is that, Mr. President, I want to bring up the issue of Southeast in particular. I gave this background for people to know that I belong to most parts of this country. But I'm talking about the issue of state creation. I've said it in time past, and I want to repeat. In 2006, when we were in the House of Representatives, some of my colleagues are here, I passionately raised that issue. And that was why, if you look at the Constitutional Amendment then, if not for the third term issue, it was only Southeast that it was clearly stated that one state must be created in Southeast. Every other state today, every other geopolitical, is either 6 states or 7 states. And I want to say, my brothers and sisters, let's, as a people, as a Senate, look at this issue dispassionately and agree as a Senate that at least the Southeast should be given one state, at least for equity, for fairness, and for justice. It is important. And I believe when we do this, you can go home to begin to pacify some of these youths who are agitating, because some of these agitations are justified. But how can you pacify them if you have nothing to give? You must have something. They ask you as a senator. You have 5 states, other 6 states, other 7 states. You have 15 members.
Your mic.
Mr. President, in agreement that yes, our unity is not negotiable. But let's use this opportunity to look at the issue of the Southeast, especially as regards state creation, dispassionately. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Jang.
It's not like this.
Mr. President, my very distinguished colleagues, my name is Jonah David Jang, Senator representing Plateau North. I stand to support this all but very important motion that should have come a long time ago. But as it is said, it is better late than never. We thank God that we have thought it wise to bring a motion like this to debate. I have been one of those that have fought the civil war to keep this country united. I therefore want to say that I believe in the total unity and the indivisibility of this nation. But let me quote one elder statesman and a very highly respected general in this country, General T.Y. Danjuma, once said, no nation has ever fought civil war 2 times and survived. And Nigeria cannot be different from what he has said. I believe that, as one of our colleagues have said here, for the sake of emphasis, I believe the major problem of this country is leadership. Because we keep blaming the military, but I believe that the military did so well to have brought this country to the time that we now have an uninterrupted democracy for about 18 years. But it is now left for us, the politicians, to now look at how best we can solve the problems of this country. I want to agree totally with Senator Aleru, who said there was a conference that Nigerians were represented from all zones. But the 7th Senate did not recognize that conference because they were the representative of the people and that that conference should not have held. But they did not do anything about it until today, until now that we are now beginning to talk about the unity of this country. So I agree that that report should be tabled before the Senate, and let us look at what Nigerians who we represent said they want. And then we can look at the major issues that are affecting this country, because I believe that conference deliberated on so many issues that are affecting this country. Mr. President, I want to also say that what is happening, the agitation the youth are now coming up with, it's not that the youth do not believe in the unity of Nigeria, but the youth are trying to make a point. And the point they are trying to make is that they are not sure of their future. That's why I spoke about leadership. The youth can see that we are not giving them the right leadership, and they cannot guarantee their future. And therefore, they are trying to draw attention. They are trying to draw attention that we must do something to ensure that their future is guaranteed. We talk of education, unemployment, and we look at every year we bring in budget in and out. The youth are not seeing anything tangible that is being done to ensure they have jobs to do, their future is guaranteed. The economy is haywire. We said we are fighting corruption. Yes, I believe totally that corruption should be fought. But the way we are going about fighting this corruption does not give this country any future. Lastly, Mr. President, I support the meeting that the acting president is calling people from North Zone and other zones. But I saw the people that were called from the North. That group of people were not representatives of the entire, what we call geopolitical North. And therefore, if the acting president wants to hear proper views, let him call people zone by zone.
Your microphone.
Then now calling 6 zones together, calling them North. Let us all meet him zone by zone, and I think we'll be able to express our views to him better. I thank you for the opportunity.
Sedonyako.
Thank you for the opportunity, Mr. President. I wish to align myself with virtually what every senator here has said, all the good things that have been said. I particularly want to align myself with what Senator Ben Bruce said. He virtually took the winds off my sail. But then I'll add just 1 or 2 points. You can recall, Mr. President, that back in 1966, there was a parliament like this. While the parliament was busy discussing like this, there was a far younger generation out there planning something. And the impact of what they did in 1966 has affected us to date. Today, as we speak here, those at the ages between 35 to, let's say, 15 don't even watch TV. Some of them don't even listen to radio. They are on social media. As we speak today, there's a disconnect between the older generation and the younger generation. Just last week, or last 2 weeks, there was this meeting of the G7, and they all realized, these advanced countries realized the impact that social media is having on the orientation of their youth, and that is the real source of recruitment into extreme organizations. This morning before coming here, while going through social media, I still came across comments that could destroy this country. There's a whole generation of youth out there that have a disconnect with us, those of us that are here in this parliament. I believe that it is very important, while aligning myself, with what Senator Ben-Bruce said, that we'll find a way of contacting or addressing the issues that the younger generation are facing. And also in line with what Senator Jang said, we must find a way of restoring hope to the younger generation. We must find a way of getting the younger generation to understand that there's a future in this Nigeria. And for now, our current approach is not working. Majority of them are on social media. Internationally, there are going to be laws related to social media. I will advise, when we come to the last aspect of our this thing, that we should realize that the Committee on Communications should carefully follow the new laws that the EU and other countries are trying to bring, so that they will restrict social media, so that we can be able to have some degree of control. As for the youth, my advice is this. Finally, as for the youth, my advice is this. There's a difference between liberty and freedom. Freedom itself is your liberty curtailed by the law. Just because we have democracy, we have freedom, it doesn't mean that you can say whatever you want to say without you thinking of the impact. So this is my own contribution. Thank you very much.
Senator Matthew Regiden.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'm Senator Matthew Rogide. I represent Edo South Central District in Edo State. First, Mr. President, I want to lend my voice in thanking the leader for bringing this all-important motion to the floor of this Senate today. On my part, I want to say that all reasons that have been adduced broadly fall under what I've always called the lack of good governance in our land. The problems militating against national integration and cohesion, Mr. President, is the one that has been given by the two problems facing us, the problem of leadership and the problem of followership. Mr. President, even if we want to have an extension to that, we said the lack of the rule of law in our land. Nigeria, the way it has presented, Mr. President, even though we are public office holders, we know it too that the problem way more in the direction of bad leadership. Bad leadership in its matrix against the followership has not been able to elicit good governance in our land. And that is why you are seeing different shades and forms of agitation. I have always said that good leadership is what you see very openly as demonstrated in what I have called compassion. A man that is inundated with the resources of the people, that is able to manage resources on behalf of the people, must be compassionate. If you have a compassionate leader in our land, he knows how to distribute our resources, that of course will aggrandize all segments of the people, that will bring happiness to them. When it is not so, there's always a problem. Mr. President, I want to say that all of us can say different things that can attempt to elicit
national integration and cohesion. We know the advantages. Like the United States of America, even South Africa, they have shown good examples to say there is a lot of strength in diversity.
It is not time for us to look at ourselves as either black or white, or those who are right and those who are wrong. It is not about darkness or light. It's not about black or white. I think that we must see ourselves just like the rainbow. Our beauty lies in the mix of our colors. So I'd like to appeal for the strength from all quarters and in all sides to ensure that we have a prosperous, united, and egalitarian society. Distinguished colleagues, this is time for us to show leadership as leaders. It's not time to leave the leadership of this country to ad hoc tendencies. But in doing so, I believe we must also address the fears and complaints of our citizens. And I believe that is what we've just started today. And we must continue in that direction. No doubt, as has been said here, as humans, we have our own tendencies, we have our own characteristics, which most times appears to be animalistic. So it is the law that guides us. It is the law that restrains us. And that's why society was set up in the first place. So I believe that within the books, within our laws, we have sufficient provisions on how to guide people's conduct, guide what they say and what they do. And this is time for the government to come out forcefully to ensure the enforcement of those laws so that people don't make reckless statements and get away with them, or people will carry out themselves in manners that tend to divide us even the more. So I appeal to the federal government, security agencies, to apply the law decisively, no matter who is involved, to ensure that this country remains united. But importantly, we must, in all our conduct, ensure equity and justice to all concerned. Because a man who is not equitably treated, or is not who is treated unjustly, may not be interested in peace. So I believe that as leaders, we must continue to dialogue with ourselves. We must also lead by example, the things we do and things we say. So it appeals to our younger generation is that they must also apply some restraints in their conduct, especially in their utterances. This country is big enough to accommodate all of us. I believe that we are happier, united, and this country can take care of everybody if we apply just principles and equitable principles in everything we do. So I just want to thank all of us for this motion. We've devoted the whole of this day to deal with this motion, and I think it's really worth it. So this is time for us to stand together for our country. This is time to stand together for ourselves to ensure that no part of this country is unjustly treated, to ensure that people don't say things recklessly and get away with it, or do things that will divide us even the more. So I would like to appeal for restraint on all sides and to everybody. And as leaders, we must send this message clearly to everybody, that this country is united and must remain united, that this country is built on principles of equity and justice, and those principles must be upheld at all times and in all places. So once more, I would like to thank everybody for our patriotic contributions. We've managed this process, this debate, in such a manner that will inspire the confidence of our people. I'm indeed proud of this Senate, and I believe that each and every one of you will today leave these chambers proud that we can lead by example and that we can send the right message that will bring peace to our country. So having said this, I would like to seek your indulgence that we go straight to the prayers. Prayer 1. Convey the commitment of 135 million Nigerians who voted us into office that will live together in unity and harmony as one indivisible, indissoluble sovereign nation under God. Those in support of this prayer say aye. Aye. Yes, my right leader, yes.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I'd like to amend the prayer to say convey the commitment of all Nigerian citizens, those who voted for us and those who did not, into office that we live together in unity and harmony as one indivisible and indissoluble sovereign nation under God. The reason is that we are not sure that 135 million Nigerians voted. They could have been up to 195 or 185 or 120. I don't know where the statistics came from. That is why I said, please We remove that part.
That makes sense.
And just, yes. So
All right, noted. Any person seconding it? Yes, Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. President, distinguished colleague Adeola Lamilekon Solomon, Lagos West. I rise to second the motion as moved by Senator Goswe Akpabio. I so second.
Further amendment to that, Senator Gamade.
Thank you. My name is Barnabas Gamade. Why accepting that we remove the figure 135? We say all those Nigerians that voted for us. But it's not good to add that, and those who did not vote for us. That one is not. I think I amend that we should remove that clause. Oh, Nigerians.
Well guided.
So it will now read, convey the commitment of all Nigerians that will live together in unity and harmony as one indivisible sovereign nation under God.
Yes.
Those support of this prayer say aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 2, Nigerians to the actions and utterances that are capable of jeopardizing the corporate existence of our dear nation. Those support of this prayer say aye.
Aye.
Those against say nay. Amendment, Senator Theoji.
Sorry. I represent the good people of Abia Central worldwide. My amendment to this motion is that urge distinguished all Nigerians to desist from actions and utterances that are capable of jeopardizing the corporate existence of our dear nation, and urging them that the federal government will listen to the various agitations. That is my own.
And any seconding. All right, those in support of the prayer as stated here, urge all Nigerians to desist from actions and utterances that are capable of jeopardizing the corporate existence of our dear nation. Say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 3. All distinguished senators to intensify their representative role by embarking on sensitization campaign in their various constituencies to highlight the importance of harmonious and peaceful coexistence. Those support of this prayer say aye. Aye. Amendment.
Thank you, Mr. President. Very distinguished colleagues. My name is Senator Sam Anyanwu. I represent Imo East in Imo State. Having given an opportunity to speak earlier, Mr. President, I want to add an amendment that the leadership of the Senate do facilitate the distinguished senators of the Federal Republic of Nigeria to intensify the representative role by embarking on sensitive in their growth.
So nobody, there's no seconding. Nobody seconded it. No seconder.
A seconder is a crazy person.
Second this one? Okay, go ahead.
Crazy person.
Thank you, Mr. President, my distinguished colleagues. Senator Kabiru Garba Marafa, representative of Zamfara Central, arise to not only second what he says, but I want my distinguished colleagues to look at the merit of what my brother said and the time we have spent discussing this issue. This Senate feels this issue is very important. It is of national importance. So it is not only the duty of federal government through its agencies that will carry out this responsibility. We as senators also, we have a responsibility because we are ambassadors of our own people. So we should all go back and preach peace to our people. So I rise to support the motion ably moved by my brother, and I urge my colleagues to please look at the merit of it and support this motion.
Okay, those in support of the motion, the prayer 3 as amended, say aye. Aye. Those against, say nay. The ayes have it. Prayer 4. Urge the federal government to direct the Federal Minister of Information and National Orientation and other relevant agencies to intensify enlightenment and advocacy of loyalty to the nation. Those in support of this prayer, say aye. Aye. Those are Benga.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senator Benga Shafa, representing Lagos East Senatorial District. Amendment to Prayer 4. Urge the federal government to direct the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation and other relevant agencies to intensify enlightenment and advocacy of loyalty to the nation through schools, religious centers, and indeed all facets of our human interaction.
Yes. Anybody seconding that? Nobody? All right. Okay, so nobody seconding. Okay. So we'll put the prayer as it is. Urge the federal government to direct the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation and other relevant agencies to intensify enlightenment and advocacy of loyalty to the nation. Those support of this prayer say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any additional prayer? Additional prayer. Yes, Boacha.
Thank you, Mr. President. The additional prayer I want to propose is the Senate should urge the security agencies to ensure the prosecution of anybody found making inflammatory statements that would threaten the corporate existence of Nigeria.
Say that again. Anybody seconding that? Paul Foster.
We didn't hear him. Repeat.
He says that we should urge the security agencies to prosecute any person making utterances capable of dividing the country.
Yes.
So, are you seconding it? Yes. Okay. Second it now. Well, those in support of the additional prayer as proposed by Senator Emmanuel Boacha say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Any additional prayer? Yes, Senator Mao.
Senate President, distinguished Senator, my name is Senator Mao Huabunwa. I want to propose, in line with the issue raised by Senator Alero, that the resolutions of the National Conference should be sent to the Senate for the deliberations.
So let me make this point clear. What happened at the end of that conference, the federal government did not send the report until the last week of the last National Assembly. So at the time it was sent, we were ready to go. They were actually sent. So it's in the National Assembly, but as in regard to our rules, by the time it was sent and when the Senate, when the National Assembly at that point came to an end, so everything had to start all over again. So we expect if you are going to raise additional prayer, it should be for the government to send a fresh one because it was sent to us earlier, but we cannot revive it as it is now. But it was actually sent at the last week of that last assembly.
Mr. President, you remember when Senator Alero said it was unanimous. So all I'm saying is that it's moving as a motion since Alero is not there, that all the federal government, as a matter of urgency, to send the resolutions of the last national conference to the Senate for deliberation.
Right, don't worry, says Senator Solomon.
Thank you, Mr. President. Adiola Solomon Olabilekon. I rise to second the motion as moved by Senator Mao. I so second.
Okay. Let me put the question. Those in support of the additional prayer that the federal government do send to the National Assembly, the resolution of the last Constitutional Conference for deliberation, say aye. Aye. Those against say nay. Nay. The ayes have it. Additional prayer. Senator Sani. Order, please. Can we conclude then? Senator Sheikh Sani, please.
Mr. President,
We should discuss it.
we should urge we should urge the federal government to set up a national committee for peace made up of eminent Nigerians that are non-partisan and detribalized, with the sole aim of facilitating dialogue between groups.
Anybody seconding that? Okay, Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having achieved so much today, I want to move that we step down the remaining items on the order paper till another legislative day. I so move.
The Leader.
Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion ably moved by the leader that having done so much for today to ensure the unity of this country, that we step down the other items on the order paper to another legislative date. I so second.
Distinguished colleagues, those in support of the prayer that will step down the remaining items on another legislative day, say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have it. Senate Leader.
Mr. President, very distinguished colleagues, having concluded on today's proceedings on the order paper, I move that the Senate stands adjourned until tomorrow, Thursday, 15th June 2017 at 10 a.m. prompt.
Minority Leader.
Mr. Senate, Mr. President, distinguished colleagues, I rise to second the motion moved by the leader that the Senate do stand adjourned to tomorrow, Thursday, 15th day of June 2017.
Before I put the question, announcement, please. Announcement. Very important announcement. Distinguished colleagues, earlier today, the Senate President was at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. In respect of his matter, recall that about a week or so, the matter came up and the case of no case submission was made by his counsel. The court adjourned the Senate die and said they will give them hearing notice to come to take the ruling. Later this evening, the parties were informed that the ruling will be ready today. So this afternoon morning, they were at the Code of Conduct Tribunal. So I'm happy to announce that the court, the tribunal, had discharged and acquitted the Senate President. And so I would like to say congratulations, not only to the Senate President, but to the rule of law. I want on his behalf to thank each and every one of you, of us, for standing by him during this period of persecution. I believe that this must be a lesson to everybody, but so that going forward, we must ensure rule of law, we must ensure equity, and people must be treated with respect. And of course, when no offense is committed, the security agency must not make additional efforts to persecute innocent Nigerians. So I would like to say congratulations to the rule of law, and then we'll continue to say that we have absolute confidence in our judiciary, and we'll continue to support the judiciary to ensure that the rights of Nigerians are not trampled upon by any person, no matter how highly placed. So it's congratulations to our rule of law, and congratulations to the people of Nigeria. So it's not about the Senate President. So I would like to say once more that we thank each and every one of you for standing by him during those periods of trial. So having said this, distinguished colleagues, those in support of the motion that Senate do now adjourn to tomorrow, 15th day of June 2017 at 10 a.m. prompt, say aye. Those against say nay. The Senate is accordingly adjourned. The ayes have it.